What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel, and today we're getting to my March 8th edition of the Bracketology. So let's get into this here. We are getting even closer, just 8 days to Selection Sunday now. That does mean that I believe Joe Lundardi is going to be coming up with a lot more updates over the next week. So expect more Bracketology's predictions videos to come out. But if we look at the bracket watch, the top row of seed is Purdue, staying that way. First team out, we have Providence, and then the last team in, Virginia. All right, if we look at the bubble here, the last four byes are Colorado State, TCU, Mississippi State, then Seton Hall getting that big win over the last four-in team, Villanova, right there. New Mexico, St. John's, and Virginia. Then the first four out, Providence, Colorado, Iowa, and Utah. You can see a lot of Big East teams on this list. But then the next four out, we get Memphis trying to climb up, trying to build on that early resume they put up when they were like a top 10 team at one point. Then we have Wake Forest, Pittsburgh, and Drake. If we look at this bracket, though, starting out with the plan, St. John's has made their way back. I do believe in St. John's. I think they're a good team. I do believe if they make the tournament, they could do some damage. Then we have Villanova going to be falling to the play-in. In the Midwest region, Purdue, that number one overall seed. We have Boise State falling to a 9 seed, taking the loss to Nevada over the weekend at home. That was not the loss they would want. And then we have Marquette losing to UConn. Obviously, they battled. But that's 2 losses in this past month or so to UConn. That's going to hurt their resume. They're down to a 3 seed. Then we do have Nevada jumping up to a 7 seed, obviously beating Boise State. And then we have Mississippi State falling to a 10 seed. In the East region, UConn, that number 1 seed right there. Stetson's going to be new to the field as a 16. Then we have Auburn jumping up to a 4 seed and Seton Hall jumping up to a 10. The South region, Houston, that number 1 seed. Michigan State jumping it to an 8. Florida Atlantic jumping up to the 9. Michigan State got a big win versus Northwestern. And then we have Toledo new to the field as a 15. West region, big decision from Joe Lundardi to move Tennessee above Kansas now. I really like the decision. I think that not only is Tennessee just clearly the better team, but if you look at Tennessee, their past 4 games they've won have been against the best SEC teams. They beat South Carolina last night. They beat Alabama on the road, South Carolina on the road as well, beat Auburn, and now they get a very tough matchup versus Kentucky. That will be a critical game. And then obviously the SEC tournament will be big too. But if they can win again there, man, this Tennessee team is building a great resume. I do believe they belong in the number 1 seed conversation over Arizona. But then we have San Diego State falling to a 5 seed right there, and Colgate jumping it to a 14, then Arizona dropping down to the 2. Okay, let's get into our bracket predictions here. Starting out with the first 4 games, New Mexico versus Villanova. I do have Villanova winning that one. And then we have Norfolk State, Central Connecticut. I got to go with Central Connecticut. St. John's, I think, would handle business against Virginia. And then Grambling State, I think, beats Little Rock. All right. For a spot in the round of 32. Purdue versus Grambling State. I got Purdue in that game. Then a good matchup between an 8 and 9 and Texas Tech and Boise State. I do have Texas Tech, though. Then I'm going to go with the 12/5. Give me Princeton to beat Clemson here. Not the biggest fan of Clemson at this point in the year. Princeton's a good team out of the Ivy League. Obviously made it to the Sweet 16 as a 15 seed last year. So give me Princeton in the upset. And then we do have Kentucky beating Appalachian State. I do have 11 seed Wisconsin beating Indiana State. beating Wisconsin. If you've watched my channel, I am not a believer in Wisconsin. Indiana State's a good team, so give me them. Then I have Vermont pulling off the 14-3. We are raining down these upsets already here. I'm a big-time believer in Vermont. They're dominant in their American East Conference, not only this year, but over the past 5-6 years. This is a great program. They haven't quite taken the step to getting an NCAA tournament win quite yet. But I'm telling you, if they get the right matchup, they've always had very tough matchups. Obviously, Marquette would be a tough matchup, but I do believe Marquette's vulnerable. So give me a 14-3. So that means we have an 11 versus a 14 in the round of 32. This is March Madness. We are here. But then a 7 versus a 10. I do have to go with Nevada, and Iowa State beat Sam Houston. Shout out to Iowa State in that crazy game versus my BYU Cougars. Iowa State just barely won that one. All right. The next matchup, Tennessee versus Central Connecticut. I do have Tennessee. Then Texas, Nebraska. That's an interesting battle. I think I'm going to slightly give that one to Texas, though. San Diego State, I do think would hold off Grand Canyon. I could see an upset, but I just feel like San Diego State's such an experienced team. They went on a run last year. It's going to be tough for these 12 seeds to beat them. So give me San Diego State. But then I do have UC Irvine pulling off the 13-4 upset. Another one there. Love me some UC Irvine. In Illinois, I'm not a believer in. Or, you know what? Never mind. I'm going to flip this up. I'm going to go with Illinois. I do believe I got to give Illinois some credit. They competed versus Purdue. They were in a rough February-ish, but I think they have turned things around. So I am going to flip this up. I'm going to go with Illinois. It is an upset territory game, but I do like Illinois. All right, Utah State, I think, beats St. John's. Baylor, I think, would hold off Colgate. Gonzaga, I think, would beat Colorado State. And then Arizona beats Eastern Washington. So after the crazy first region, we do have chalk in the West region. I'm still, I would like UC Irvine, but let's just stick with Illinois for now. So, yeah, we have a chalk region there. All right. UConn versus Stetson. I do like UConn. Northwestern, I think, would be able to beat Oklahoma. BYU, I think, beats Richmond. Auburn, I think, would beat Samford right there, as well as South Carolina pulling off the win over Villanova. Then we got Kansas beating High Point. Seton Hall, I think, could pull off the slight 10-7 upset over St. Mary's. And then give me North Carolina to beat Winnipeg. All right, final region down here, we have Houston, South Dakota State. Give me Houston. Michigan State, Florida Atlantic. I got to go with 8-seeded Michigan State. Then I'm going to go with another 12-5 here. Give me McNeese State to beat Washington State. Washington State just lost to Washington at home. I think Washington State's just kind of a fraud. They're at a 5 seed, to be honest with you. And McNeese State is a very good 12 seed. So give me McNeese State. Then I'm going to go with the 13-4. And there was a reason why I switched to Illinois here. I decided that I don't think that there's going to be 2 13 seeds beating a 4. I want to switch things up and give Alabama a loss early here and give the College of Charleston some love here. Alabama's a team that have lost a couple games in a row. Obviously, they're to great teams in Tennessee and Florida, but this team, if they're cold offensively, their defense cannot match up. It's not a great defense. So I like Charleston to maybe get this Alabama team to be a little bit cold here and pull off an upset. But then we have Florida, South Florida. I really like South Florida as a team, but I just can't pick against Florida in that game. So give me the Gators. And then give me Creighton to beat Oakland. TCU, I think, pulls off the 10-7 over Dayton. And Duke beats Toledo. So that was a crazy first round, obviously. A lot of upsets. But as we move on here in the round of 32, we'll see if we can get some more. Purdue, Texas Tech. I do have to go with Purdue in that game. And then I do have Kentucky beating Princeton. Indiana State, Vermont, 11 versus a 14. As much as I want to go with Vermont, I do have Indiana State moving on to the Sweet 16. And then we have Iowa State, Nevada, 2 versus a 7. Give me Iowa State. Okay, Tennessee, Texas, 1 versus an 8. I do have Tennessee. San Diego State, I think, pulls off the 5 over 4 over Illinois. Baylor, Utah State, give me Baylor. Arizona, Gonzaga, that's a good matchup, but I do have Arizona pulling off the win. Okay. UConn versus Northwestern, 1 versus an 8. I do have UConn. BYU, I think, will beat Auburn in that game. Then give me South Carolina to beat Kansas. Not a believer in Kansas. I am a firm believer in the South Carolina team. So give me South Carolina in the win. Then I do have to go with North Carolina to beat Seton Hall in that game. All right, Houston, Michigan State. Give me Houston. I do have McNeese State pulling off the win over Charleston for another double-digit seed in the Sweet 16. Florida, Creighton. That's an interesting matchup, 6 versus a 3. I'm going to go with Florida. The way they played versus Alabama just gets me believing in this team. Obviously, Creighton's a very good team as well. That one could go either way, but I am going to go with the upset with the Gators. And then Duke, TCU, 2 versus a 10. I do have Duke pulling off the win. Okay, so I believe we have all 1 seeds and all 2 seeds in the Sweet 16. We'll see if that will change here in the in the Sweet 16. But then Purdue, Kentucky, 1 versus a 4. I believe last time I went with Kentucky. I do have to go with Purdue this time. Just each week, it seems like they continue to prove why they deserve to be this number 1 overall seed. So I do have Purdue beating Kentucky, and then I do have Iowa State ending Indiana State's run. Okay, Tennessee versus San Diego State. I do have Tennessee, a very good team there. Baylor, Arizona, good matchup, but I'm a believer in the 3-seeded Baylor Bears, so give me them to pull off the win. All right, UConn, BYU. As BYU, I think, as a Cougars fan, I think we could go on a run depending on which 5 seed we would meet, or 1 seed we would meet, but it would be very difficult against UConn. I do have Connecticut pulling off the win. And then South Carolina, North Carolina. Last time I went with South Carolina, I do have to flip it up this time. Give my respects to the Tar Heels of North Carolina. All right, Houston, McNeese State. As much as I want to go with McNeese State, that would be a gauntlet game. Give me Houston. Florida, Duke, 2 versus a 6. I'm going to go with the Gators. Give me them to move on as a 6 seed over the Duke Blue Devils. Okay, so now the Elite 8 set. All 1 seeds are in the Elite 8. So we'll see if what will happen in this Elite 8. Purdue, Iowa State, 1 versus a 2. I'm going to go with this one would be a tough one for Iowa State. I'm going to come back to that one. Let me come back to that one. But then Tennessee, Baylor, this has been a constant. This was the national championship matchup, I believe, last time. But this time I'm going to go with Tennessee. Give me the Volunteers, a firm believer in them to pull off the win. All right, UConn versus North Carolina, 1 versus a 2 seed. Give me UConn. I got to go with the Huskies, man. And then Houston versus Florida. I'm going to go with Florida. I'm going to go with Florida here with the 6 over 1. I just can't see this many 1 seeds in the Final Four. So give me the Gators pulling off the win. Just a little bit of a run there. That would be very tough for me to pull off in the actual NCAA tournament. But in this bracket, I could very much see it happening. So give me Florida. And then Purdue versus Iowa State. I gotta go with the Boilermakers. I'm gonna give them some love. So we are gonna have 3 number 1 seeds in the Final Four here: Purdue, Tennessee, UConn, and then 6 seed in the Gators of Florida. So for a spot in the national championship game, Purdue, Tennessee, give me Tennessee winning that one to move on, with Dalton Knecht getting the best of Zach Edey. And then UConn versus Florida, 1 versus a 6. I do have to go with Connecticut to end the run. So we do have Tennessee, 1 seed versus the defending champs, UConn. Give me UConn to win the championship at this point. They just proved that they are one of the best, that if not, I think at this point, the best team in the country, beating Marquette pretty good. So yeah, give me UConn. And I'm going to be honest, guys, if it's this 4 number 1 seeds, I'm having a tough time finding flaws in Purdue, Tennessee, UConn, and Houston. Those are my 4 probably title contenders right now. And it just so happens they are all the 1 seeds. But anyway, guys, thank you all for watching this video today. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the content. Comment down below your predictions. Anyway, guys, peace out.